Okay, I got 6 o'clock. We all set, ladies? Three. Folks, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Another cold day in April, right? This is the Town of Canandaigua, April 8th Planning Board meeting. I appreciate you coming out this evening. We're gonna follow the agenda as published. Let me introduce our small but mighty group here. Kim Burkhardt is our facilities coordinator. We have Karine Hatch, our recording secretary in the back. Board member Amanda Van Laken. Active board member tonight is our alternative Dan Bukowski. We have Tim Schneider, Chuck Euler, Sarah Reynolds, town planner, Eric Cooper, representing MRB. And I know our attorney was going to try to zoom in, but he's en route to the sunny south. So we see him, we see him. If not, we'll struggle on. Okay. As I said, we're going to follow the agendas published. When we come to an item on the agenda that you're involved with or would like to speak on, please come to the podium, give us your name and address so we have it for the record. And then please address the board on the item that you'd like to discuss. And then we will, on each application, deliberate on the application and hopefully come to a decision this evening. And that being said, we had no legal notices to publish for this hearing because we had no public hearings. I will open the floor to privilege of the floor for anyone who would like to address the board on an issue that is not on the agenda for this evening. Not on the agenda. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the agenda itself. First item being CPN 2025-014. Scott Harder, who was representing property owner at 3530 Middle Cheshire Road. This is a continued amended site plan review, and it's applicant is proposing to change the home size and footprint. And Mr. Casey, are you here representing the applicant?
I am here representing the applicant.
Good evening.
I don't know if Scott is even joining us this evening, but thank you. I guess I know most everybody here, except for probably Amanda. I don't know if I've met you before, but my name is John Casey. I'm a town board member. I'm also chairman of the ordinance committee and past member of the ZBA. I've been in the construction business my entire life, with my first responsible position being in 1979 after I graduated from the University of Arizona. I started my career in the executive end of the construction business and been involved with it ever since. I'm a former chairman of the Registered Builders Exchange and one of the founding members and the first chair of Unicon, which is represents the 5-county area around Rochester, representing all of the unions and all of the union contractors. It was a collaborative effort that is still in existence today that emphasizes union construction in and around Rochester. As some of you know, I've gotten involved in the home building business here, and it's been going pretty well, and I'm pretty excited about it. And that's what brings me here tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Sissery are clients and customers of mine, and I thought in that I could or I would need to recuse myself from any deliberations moving forward on behalf of the town, that I would come here tonight and represent the Sisserys. And I guess I would ask you, Mr. Chair, whether you wanted me to spend time justifying why we ought to be approved tonight, or whether you wanted to.
I think we, at the last meeting, we just, to give an overview, I think the biggest issue remaining was some more detail on the landscaping plan. I think everything else had been resolved. We talked about the addition, was being added to the structure. We talked about the pool, the patio in the back. And I guess it was sort of the consensus of the board at the time that given this structure that was up on the hill that we can now obviously see for ourselves, it was felt that some additional landscaping may be required. And it came to a point that I think we sort of agreed that it should be some additional shrubbery and landscaping around the patio and pool area in the back. That's sort of what we were looking for. I think the Josh from Josh Landscaping, Mike had proposed some deciduous trees either side of the new home to sort of add to the skyline view of the house looking up the hill, that you're looking at some deciduous trees rather than just one big house. But again, we felt, I think, in our conclusion that we would like to see some shrubbery along the back. And we asked the applicant to come back with that plan or submit a plan, which was submitted. And did everyone on the board see that plan, including the shrubbery that was proposed? And I think it was clear as to the species and size of the shrubbery. I think that was one thing I was looking for, but I eventually found it. So I think for the most part, we're in a position to act on this application. Does the board agree? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that being said, then
I think that what was explained, that the primary mitigation of the scenic view shed was the fact that it was one residence when it could have been developed into multiple residences.
Yeah, I think that, I don't need to do this, but I guess I will, speaking for the town, or my position at least, with the town. I am glad that it is a single family home development rather than multiple lots or having the lot being subdivided. So I think, from my perspective, I think that whole concept is better than if we were to subdivide and be talking about this kind of issues for many more homes than just the one that we're talking about tonight.
I don't think you're alone.
Good.
okay, so ready to move on the amended single stage site plan resolution. Someone want to give me a motion regarding this application?
Sure. I'll make the motion to approve CPN 25014 amended single stage site plan with how many conditions? Five conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion, second, further discussion. The only correction I have to the resolution, Eric, is you have the plan dated January 2024. I think it was 2025, hopefully. I don't think it was that old. So with that correction, no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Didn't hear any. Motion carries. Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Scott, go to your meeting. Scott's on the Victor planning board. Okay, so next item on the agenda, CPN 2025 011, which is 011. Marks Engineering representing a property on Ladding Road. It's a site plan approval to build a single family home
Yes.
and associated improvements on a vacant parcel in the AR2 zoning district. Good evening.
Good evening, how's everyone doing?
Good.
John Jones, Marks Engineering. Here for Hunter application, like you just said. I got Hunter here tonight to answer any specific questions that I can't. So we're in an interesting piece of town here with the boundary. The direct boundary is Canandaigua, Hopewell, and then other side of the road is Farmington, Manchester. So we were at the ZBA last month to get a variance for the driveway setback. Because it's actually two different parcels. The larger 15-acre piece in the back is Canandaigua. And then that skinny little piece up front there, 0.29 acres is Hopewell. So got a variance for the driveway setback crossing that boundary at the ZBA meeting last month. So the project itself is just a single family house, pretty cut and dry, septic, well, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. I will mention at the ZBA meeting, there were some drainage concerns that were brought up by a neighbor. So the town of Manchester actually maintains Hopewell's right of way on this road, and similar for Farmington maintains Canandaigua's right of way. So Manchester had put a curb cut in for Mr. Reed, and there's an existing culvert, or was an existing culvert there that's been collapsed. So they removed that culvert when they put the curb cut in. And then you can see on the site plans there's some catch basins on Canandaigua's side that Farmington maintains. So Manchester town staff have indicated that they're gonna put a new culvert in that's gonna tie into the Farmington catch basins there to help alleviate some of those drainage issues. So we got email correspondence on that. We can upload the cloud permit if the town wants. Regarding Hopewell, Justin Bruin, I believe, is on cloud permit documentation from him saying the driveway on Hopewell's side is perfectly fine. Nothing of concern there.
Do we have any jurisdiction
In Hopewell? No,
Yeah. over anything with the driveway?
no.
Well, that's why we had to get the setback, because we're crossing over from Hopewell to Canandaigua.
And Mike Murphy was in contact with code enforcement in Hopewell to make sure that, we knew that they were in favor of this and fine.
Yeah, so besides that, that's pretty much all I have to say, so I'm happy to answer any of your guys' questions.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I know at PRC, there was some concerns about showing the house setback lines in the rear. Have you done that, John?
Yeah, we've added the rear setback
Okay.
there.
The driveway length and width. That's been shown, okay.
Yeah,
The house square footage is, well, I guess it's under the shading there. And you did get the variance from the ZBA for the setback for the driveway,
yep,
because you're coming right off that corner. It's good. There are some NRI features on the property, the silver maple ash swamp, which the ECB brought up. There's a successional old field back in the back, I guess, which I think for the most part, you're staying away from that. Both the swamp, the woods and the old field. We did get the copy of the email from Manchester approving the driveway cut, and they actually did the work for it. Put the drain in. They're quick. We had no comment back from Farmington. We did hear from Hopewell, as you mentioned, so we're good there. The county planning board, I think all they were concerned about was making sure we coordinated with the other towns. And certainly we're trying to do it anyway. How are you making out with the septic system?
it's a conventional system, so there's no jurisdictional review on that.
Okay, and that's being reviewed by Murphy or who's doing the review?
I don't believe there's any town review on conventional septic system. Unless Mike Murphy would like to.
Somebody's got to, I guess, sign off of it. I know it's not Tyler and it's not the,
No, it's outside the watershed, no
Okay.
health
I
department
believe
required.
we sent it to Tad Jerry's at Soil and Water.
okay. Do they normally get involved with conventional systems out of the watershed? I guess.
So my understanding is that Soil and Water, we have Tyler who reviews things in the watershed, and Tad looks at things outside of the watershed. well, outside of Canandaigua watershed.
And I think you have as a condition, Eric,
This isn't on the house, so you guys.
your DOH.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whoever the appropriate agency or person should be, that should be what's in the condition, so. ECB, don't cut any more trees than you have to build the house. We're trying to keep what we can. I'm sure you want to also make sure that any plantings you put in are native species plantings. The Ag Committee had checked in and said that it was not being farmed. I think the Stryker Farm is right next to it. Is that right?
That's right.
And I think Tim had come to the Ag Committee meeting and discussed the application, and the conclusion was there was no loss of active farmlands as a result of it. There is a stream way up north, right?
It would be to the west.
West, okay, almost off the property,
Yeah,
okay. And you're certainly well set back from that.
Chuck, could I just ask? a
Sure,
question?
anytime you want to jump in, I'm just going through my notes.
Okay, I see in the ag committee notes, it does mention though that it may have an impact on the active agricultural operations of the field, the farm next door. Is that just, again, just the construction, or did they go over exactly what they think would be a problem for the agricultural operations?
there shouldn't be any problem for the neighboring agricultural operations. I think that's just a general statement from the Ag Committee. We're not
Wasn't
doing,
there a concern, Dan, maybe, I think it was this application about dust from the farm operations, you know, crossing the property line, and that the homeowner's aware that they may see the results of farm activity
I think that's
drifting
quite-
onto your
quite
property.
Is the driveway parcel that was perhaps part of the ag field? Maybe that's what you're talking about as we look at this parcel map.
Proving the access.
We zoom in. To
it might have been at
driveway.
one point, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like there was a tree row there. Are you, well, that's in the town of Hopewell.
Yeah.
Sorry, I won't answer questions about the town of Hopewell.
Anything else, Dan?
No, that was
Okay.
the question I had.
You're in public water out there?
No, it's gonna be a well.
Oh, it is a well? Okay. And was the well sited on the site plan?
Yep.
Okay. I had a question, whether it was public or well, and if it was well, where does it go? Okay. I guess something came up in the ZBA meeting and something I guess we have to discuss, and I think you've covered it, Eric, in the resolution, is an easement being needed, driveway easement to the owner of the Canandaigua portion on the Hopewell portion. And if he ever.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
there's
tricky
two
one,
separate
'cause-
lots, right?
Yeah.
So if you
yeah.
ever sold that lot, the string, it would have to be.
It would
subject
be, it
to a
would,
drive access easement.
I only ask if that would be necessary because that is not even a buildable lot. So if you were to sell that off, it's not even possible.
The town that regulates the house doesn't regulate the building restrictions in.
Hopewell.
Oh, well,
So the town would have no control over at least that section on whether or not it's buildable or not. They were to change the rules hypothetically in the future. I don't know if Chris has an opinion, he's on the line, you know, I personally think it makes sense. There be some.
yeah, I get it, yeah.
Lot line adjustment be easier than an easement?
I
Not
don't think that
across,
they
property,
could.
not across municipal
Not
boundaries.
across municipal
They have
boundaries.
to be separate parcels.
Oh, okay.
If we gotta do an easement, that's, you know,
Yeah,
is
I
what it
think
is.
you gotta do it. I think it was a condition. Chris, you have something to say?
I was just saying, you definitely need an easement.
Thank you. So, good one. Okay, yeah, and the other thing is you could sell it to the strikers and they could do a lot line adjustment and make it part of their big lot, and now if they wanted
Yep.
to. Yep. So it needs an easement for that.
Yep, sure.
And that is a condition of the approval. Is there a SHPO issue here? I think on the part one, it did show some encroachment. And City Fire did comment and they had no comments. So- You want to check the part one?
Yeah.
Anybody else on the
It
board?
is an archaeological site. So we can have a condition that should all provide the no impact letter.
Okay. And anyone in the audience here or out there like to address the board regarding this application on Lighting Road? Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Board, are you comfortable that we can go to first of all, seeker? And then we'll talk about the site plan and its conditions. Why don't we do it?
Do stepwise or bundle?
Do them separately, because I think we want to go over the conditions just to make sure.
I'll do the seeker then. I'll make a motion to approve the seeker type 2 action on 25011 at 000 Latin code.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second that.
okay, we get paid by the number of motions. All right, I got a motion on the seeker. It's a type 2 actions that no further review is required as part of this application. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's move to the site plan. Someone want to give me a motion and we'll discuss what conditions.
Sure. I will move to approve a single stage site plan for 000 Lang Road, CPN 25011 with 9 conditions.
Number 10, so just going through the changes, number 7, revising New York State Department of Health and Veterinary Soil Conservation District. Adding a condition number 9, that all variances approved by the zoning board to be detailed on site plans. And condition 10, the SHPO letter to be provided, or no impact letter, be provided prior to permits.
Okay, how does 7 read now?
Prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy approval from the Ontario County Soil and Water Conservation District, regarding the review of the onsite wastewater treatment system design is to be provided to the town candidate.
Sounds good. Okay, for discussion? If not, all in favor?
We need a second.
Oh, I thought we.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
All righty. Moving right along. Hopefully we'll keep moving. CPN 2024-143 over on Parkside Drive. Continuous preliminary site plan and subdivision for Uptown Landing. Continued from many previous meetings. Hi, Matt.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good. You want us to give an update where we stand?
Sure. Where we stand is we have made progress with RG&E. I know last time we were here before the board, we had kind of a wild card RG&E discussion, and I've passed along to staff, but we have agreed to bury the transmission lines, which allows us to reduce the easement and leave the plans the way that this board has contemplated them. There's obviously quite a bit of cost to the owner, but we feel that that's critical to the project, really, to keep that design the way that you guys have seen it, reviewed it, and the progress that we've made, and really establish that streetscape feel along Fire Hall Road specifically. And so the developers indicated the willingness to do that. And so that obviously we had asked to be continued pending that discussion. In the interim, we've also had quite a few discussions with staff relative to some modification to the incentive zoning language to make Sarah's life a lot easier as she reviews our plans as it relates to lot dimensions for the single family homes and some of the other bulk requirements, the flexibility that really allows this planning board to review the plans and approve those configurations consistent with what was reviewed by the town board as part of your referral to them. So that's where we're at. We had also requested or outlined as part of that discussion, this board considering preliminary site and subdivision approval at this meeting, contemplating potential for conditional approval pending the town board's action on, I think it's going to be April 21st is what we're talking about. I know there was some communication today as well, so I'm not exactly 100% sure where that stands. In the interim, we also have been addressing the utility agency's comments as it relates to Farmington Water. We're down to some things that have been requested that are not within their design criteria, so we're going back and forth with them on that. And Chuck, I think you were copied on an email that I sent relative to some of that earlier today. But again, all of the comments received we have received all of the comments, Health Department, Water, the Ontario County Sewer Department, we're working through. MRB is also working on their design side on an update or a comparison of the overall flows of the development and how it ties into the sewer master study. We don't anticipate any issues there, given the previous calculations that were provided. So we think we've got things teed up. We're just not 100% sure that the trigger can be pulled for the approval. And that's what we're here tonight to discuss. And of course, pending that decision, we are prepared to start discussing final section 1, which we have submitted for, and it has been reviewed out through the last PRC meeting that we attended as well. So that's my update.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got the issue with the amended IZ. John, do you want to respond to that at all, or just is what Mark had described essentially what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, we had multiple meetings discussing what we needed to do to the language to just once and for all get the IZ to fulfill the intent of the whole project instead of having to go back and forth. I know Sarah and I went through everything and we're finding all the little things in form-based code that weren't accounted for simply because of the complexities of form-based code. So, and I think Nadler did send a message that I know when I initially sent my message to the board, said that you would be able to approve based on the conditions of this IZ amendment being approved on the 21st. I think Nadler said you can't do that. I misunderstood him in a previous conversation then. Good, and he can confirm obviously, but I'm pretty sure he said you can't do that, but so I don't know how that I'm gonna work with you guys. I know you also had some opinions on that. But it's the 21st. I don't foresee any issues with that passing. I know the town board has been in support of it. It's been discussed several times. Planning board's the very next day. So
Okay.
I don't see any issues on the 21st happening.
So yeah, I sort of look at, well, first of all, Jake, the plans that you sent, just get the plans out of the way. You looked at them last week. Were they the 318 revision? Wasn't a further revision of those plans? Because essentially what was loaded last week were the same plans that we had seen back.
All it included was some of the valve changes addressing Farmington Water's comments and a couple other agencies. There was no
Okay,
changes.
that was not clear. And
Yeah.
I wasn't about to go through.
Sure, yeah,
Look,
They were
and then when
very-
I saw the same revision data.
yeah.
Highlights, please.
Very minor updates, just addressing some of the utility agencies. We have responded to MRB's comments. I think they're probably going through those as well to issue another letter based on the revisions and responses that we gave as we moved to final, but that's all that was changed in that update.
Okay,
So what is left to satisfy for the Farmington Water?
They're still asking for the water main connection along Parkside Drive to be looped out to County Route 28, which was one of the original requests at the IZ that was not selected by the town board for inclusion. So the project is not performing that work. They're also asking for three-way valves at every water main intersection along the Spine Road.
Let's, if you
Sure.
might just, let's back up.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So the project isn't currently providing that spine to County Route 28.
That's correct.
Is that definite for the future that it's not part of how you will move forward?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. The project is extending a portion of the water main along Parkside Drive and then looping it through the project once all the phases are built for that dual connection required by the health department and everything else. So it's in compliance with health department requirements, in compliance with looping requirements for maximum number of units off a single provision source. That connection to County Route 28 is not required from any health or safety, wellness, redundant water supply requirements.
So it may be a want, not a need,
It is,
but
it's
it's
a,
currently it's on your plate.
it was a request that was reviewed by the town board as part of the IZ amenities to be provided by the project and not selected to be included. So yes, it is a want, but not something that was required of the project.
Not selected by the
town.
board or not selected by the applicant?
Canandaigua board.
Not selected by the board or not selected by the applicant?
I don't want to speak for the town board, and
No.
I know this was right around when John started, but the construction value and the dollars that it would take from the overall amenities package, I believe, was indicated by the board that it could be spent at better value return for town of Canandaigua residents. It's my understanding.
That was a decision made by the Canandaigua Town Board after evaluating all the possible amenities that the applicant had to choose from.
Okay,
If I was there, I was gonna say, I probably had no idea what was even being talked about at the time, so.
I forgot Chris was on, and yes, Chris was there for those discussions.
okay.
Does it have the potential to hold up other approvals from Farmington?
I do not anticipate that, so I have a feeling the developer will be chatting with Chris and Jared if it becomes a holdup. That also is at least section 2 for any type of future looping through there for the full connection out to Parkside for the portion that's currently contemplated within the project. Most likely section 3 when the loop road's been completed or the spine road is completed.
Thank you.
Are you anticipating a approval letter, for lack of a better word, from Farmington saying we're okay with your design? Is that something you're ultimately?
We need to
going-
get them to sign the plans prior to starting construction, so we need to work through the valve comments and
Okay,
that connection
so
comment
you're gonna-
prior.
And
And we're actively working on it. I don't want the board to
Okay.
think we're ignoring it. by
I'm
any
just
means.
seeing how much that influences what we want to do tonight, and I think in looking at the IZ amendment needed and the position that Chris has regarding when we can act, being that the Farmington is still up in the air, okay? Being we have tonight, and no offense to Dan, but Dan sitting as an active member, he's really not been involved in the full review of this application. And 2 members who were involved are not here tonight, both Mark and Bob, who I think would like to be part of the going ahead with this thing as far as vote on the preliminary. I'd like to postpone this thing till the 22nd. Though, one thing we could do tonight, and I suggested this for your benefit, so you know what's coming, is maybe look at the preliminary overall that we have proposed. This is a draft of the resolution. Okay. It would apply. And if we could go over this rather quickly, looking at the size of it, maybe not that quickly. And get some agreement among the board. Chris, if you want to chime in, you certainly can. And make you aware of what you'll be looking at probably on the 22nd, given any amendments we do tonight. All right, so maybe Eric, if you want to go through it,
Sure.
because you drafted it.
And just briefly, overviewing the changes from the previous iteration that you probably saw in the packet. There really isn't anything substantial from that version. Sarah reorganized it so that it's kind of in chronological order, so that like the conditions relating to prelim or prior to prelim or front, and then the permit and CO was the end.
Yeah, I didn't
And-
change language,
Yeah.
just reorg.
And the conditions themselves have, we try to clarify, being as specific as we can about when they are to occur. So some of them just said prior to signing or something like that. In this case, where there's where there's a prelim and final, or various finals. Clarifying that it's, as part of final plans, signing final plans, signing preliminary overall plans. So make sure that that's clear within the condition itself. But again, otherwise, the conditions are basically the same as the previous version that you saw. We used prior to this meeting. The first condition is standard. We discuss it under ADA approval. The second condition will be removed since it can't be conditioned upon the incentive zoning resolution being approved at a later date. Actually, no, the third condition is, excuse me, second condition is, but basically that's just saying it's conditional on the incentive zoning resolution as. And then issue 4, just.
Signature block, okay.
There. Issue 5.
More plans from you.
Sure, Grand Time can address that prior to next meeting. Bringing over our plans to include no invading of extended water and sewer infrastructure. Constructed during each phase. Issue 6, preliminary overall subdivision plan to be rise to identify conservation easement for the space areas, including public trails.
Do you want me to pause? You want to have a question? Or
Please.
Yeah, sure.
clarification?
Yeah,
Okay, instead of just going through. So the comment about the conservation easement, the discussion was that there'd be a deed restriction filed as it related to open space, meaning where the ponds are as it relates to the mixed use and apartment building owners. So the conservation easement as passive rec space, active stormwater management, pedestrian activity and maintenance. I'm not sure that was the intent, so I'm not clear what the conservation easement would do versus the deed restricted portion. And if that's the right thing, that's fine. I guess it's the same thing as it relates to the owner, but a conservation easement typically has some restrictive language that the maintenance of these things probably doesn't contemplate.
I would just ask if Chris could comment, I believe that came from an earlier conversation, so if I misstated what the request was for an earlier meeting. I'm happy to advise that.
Chris, are we looking at a required conservation easement, or would a deed restriction on each lot, open space lot, be effective?
It could be either. It just needs to be to the town of Canandaigua for enforcement purposes. It would be, the easement would be conservation / open space in nature, but also stormwater in nature. We can work that, Matt, if you want to give me a call tomorrow, we can work out the exact language.
Okay, and I think if the condition just says shall be maintained with some type of legal document naming the town of Canandaigua or something of that nature, it would, and then we can figure out the details prior to signatures.
Exactly.
Okay. Number 7 is your SOP town engineer.
The following few are just related to the different comments that are referring parties that have been engaged here, town engineer, highway superintendent, code enforcement officer, planner, and water district. All standard comments are to be addressed prior to signing of previous plans. Issue 12, once they're signed by the planning board, they're probably filed with the material clerk. That is also stated.
preliminary subdivision gets filed with the county clerk or just the town clerk? I think it's just the town, right? Usually the clerk's office only takes final subdivision plats. I think we get the preliminary plans signed by the planning board chair and then those go on record here at the town.
No, I sign them. What happens to them afterwards?
Final will be, the preliminary will not be filed at the county. Only final plans get filed with the county.
Then place Ontario County Clerk with the town clerk, or I suppose it doesn't need to be 62 days.
I know they're filed somewhere because we
Yeah,
sort of want to
yeah,
minimize.
usually
We
the
want
town
to,
clerk.
we want to minimize them having to be amended, which
Yeah.
is the reason we're going through the sections.
So I actually think 12 could probably just come out and then 13 covers the filing with the town clerk, if you just cross out county clerk's office.
Well, unless the preliminary has to be filed somewhere, it has to be filed with the town clerk.
Well, it says to be preliminary would have to be signed and filed with the county clerk's office and town, and that could just say town clerk's office instead on 13.
Yeah, that's
Not gonna get a bill, are we?
From me?
Yeah.
This is pro bono.
This is pro bono. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, I would hesitate to get rid of.
I think they say the same thing, maybe
Well,
13 just
the
has a
intent of
couple.
13 was
words in.
more related to the effect or when you could get final approval, basically, that prelim would have to be signed prior to that.
Yep, it is, and I think it says that, because it says preliminary overall phase subdivision plans are to be signed and filed with
Yeah, definitely.
in 13, so. I think it covers that.
All right, so now we're past 13 and 14. As part of the final phase 1 subdivision plan approval and subsequent phases, all comments from Canada County Sewer District on the address approval of the sanitary sewer design and district extension are required prior to the final phase plans being signed by the planning board chairperson.
Yeah, I see some of these refer to phase 1. Now, do you refer to phase 1 in the preliminary overall approval because of making the applicant aware?
We want to make sure that the conditions that will be applied during any final approval are applied initially as part of prelim. Based on guidance that we received from Chris Nadler.
Okay.
You have to apply those conditions as part of prelim in order to apply them as part of final.
Understand that?
Yep,
Okay.
no problem.
I think I do. Okay, that's
So,
14.
14,
Sewer.
basically, sewer comments to be addressed.
Mhm.
And they're like accessibility as part of the final. As part of the final phase 1, details provided for the monument signs, it's. Standard signage we use on the final. And as we discussed with the applicant, 16 details we provided the building mounted lighting as part of the final. Phase 1. And it should probably say and subsequent phases.
We're nomenclature's phases now, not sections.
Our plans will be titled sections.
We will use sections to.
So I guess all reference to phase should be a section. Okay.
Because we may get a section approved and phase the section, that's usually how we
Thought you had said that.
distinguish, so.
Chicken and egg.
Okay,
And I think 17 really is the language that we were talking about for number 6. I think that's kind of duplicative relative to the open space and open space common areas. If you want to add trails to that too, we can do that.
Regarding those ones, I believe I added them based on an earlier note from Chris. If you talk to Chris, I'll talk to Chris and make sure that our comment is appropriate.
Sure.
In that discussion
No problem.
for 17 and 18.
Okay,
19 prior signatures will fix the final phase one subdivision plan, section one. I would just note that I'll make that change. Any future reference to phase. All easements identified are be forwarded to the town of Canandaigua for review and approval by town engineer and town attorney. Any standard. Typically approved by us. I'll add a note in there that where the easements are to be granted to the town of Canandaigua, they'll be approved or accepted by the town. of Canandaigua.
is it, if it's a water easement or something? Okay,
That could only be for section one. Right?
Yeah, that affects section one.
What's your
It
question, sir?
says all easements identified on preliminary roll call. You mean all
you have,
easements?
you have water lines
No, it
crossing
would
private
be for
property that
all
would require
easements
easements
for
from. Okay, from two farming, and same for sewer, I guess.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a couple areas where utility separations require a hydrant to have a little easement on a couple of lots as well, things like that.
And you're acquiring those,
What's that?
and you're acquiring those from, well, no, you're you're
We'll
giving,
be
yeah,
doing that as part of the approval dedication.
You're the giver.
process. Yep.
not the givee.
Yep.
And Sarah asked a question,
What number are we on?
still in 19,
Okay.
about whether that means that all easements shown in the prelim, so for all of the phases. Are required to be approved, accepted as part of final phase one section. And no, that it would be section by section.
As the sections are.
Yeah,
Correct.
so on 20. These are taken from the incentive zoning approval. Prior to the issuance of building permits, projects, developer shall apply for permits for the sidewalk. This language is straight from the incentive zoning resolution, same 21. Same 22. Okay. Issue 22 is not in the incentive zoning.
Oh, site design.
But that is how we always handled large developments like this in the past, that basically the dedication be done prior to planning permits being issued. With the exception of the time.
Yeah, that's a standard I think Jim had come up with,
Yep. 23 payment.
So- I'm assuming we'll accept dedication in phases, but the town will require an offer of dedication for all. Of credit and or a surety.
Can you maybe restate that? I think you got like muted halfway through your.
We lost it for a second.
You got
you
muted
lost it again. Chris, let us know when you're back. You can move ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, it said, it offered me the opportunity to unmute and I didn't press the button. So the town, I'm assuming, will be accepting dedication in phases. But we will require an offer of dedication for all public improvements prior to signatures on the preliminary plan, along with the letters of credit that the town engineer deems or approved by the town engineer.
Prior to.
That's prior to section one final, right, Chris?
No, prior to preliminary overall.
But the letter of credit, I thought, was part of the final section one package, so that's why I'm wondering why those are tied together with the preliminary.
Well, we might have to talk about that offline, but when your stormwater improvements, are they all self-contained within phase one?
I'm not sure how to answer that, or what you mean by that question.
Well, the project has extensive public improvements through all phases that are tied together. town's gonna need some assurance that those are gonna be completed, right?
Well, correct, but each section is designed as a standalone section with compliance with health department, fire and safety, everything. So each section's letter of credit will be individualized, if you will, because the maintenance bond is going to be for that section, and the dedication that's offered will be defined by that section's cost.
I'm okay with that if the board is, but offer of dedication will need to be filed or submitted to the town prior to signatures on preliminary. For all the public improvements, just document saying you can have them, you can have the public improvements.
Yeah,
Once we complete
that's
them.
no problem. I think if it's tied to a letter of credit with projected costs for future phases, that's going to be problematic from a development
Is each
standpoint.
section standalone on its own?
Yes,
Okay, so if,
I mean, it ties to
God
the
forbid.
infrastructure that we're building for it, but as far as compliance with fire code, for example, for access points and hydrant locations, pressures within the water main, all of that is,
so if section one
Independent
gets
or
built
builds on
and
each
no
other.
other sections get built,
it's
some reason.
compliant,
it can
For-
stand alone
current regulations, yes, yep,
and meet Old Town standards as far as
correct.
fire code and all that. Okay.
So the offer for dedication, it really is just the developer formalizing intent to offer all public improvements for dedication. We can absolutely provide that whenever the town wants it. I think letter of credit needs to stand with the final section one.
That should work.
Okay, so we've got the park and rec fee, the applicant has agreed to pay. Prior to the construction beginning. Construction meeting, that's it. Okay, and I guess the only caveat is, you know, in our review of section one, we, in that resolution, there may be additional conditions specific to section one. I mean, we're not approving section one here, just approving the preliminary, but also sort of forewarning or making sure that as part of section one, or, all preliminary issues have been addressed. Correct.
Yeah,
You
and
understand?
we hope to have quite a few of these by final section one approval conditions obviously knocked off by the time we get to that point. So the final should have a lot of that resolved.
Okay,
And just circling back to the conversation before we started going through the conditions. From a final section one timeframe. Understanding that the vote on preliminary earliest is gonna happen is the 22nd, assuming success at the 21st. Does that mean because we're already have us submitted but not complete because preliminary is not approved, that pushes that same window between, or is the board gonna be able to contemplate at the first May meeting, I'm not sure what that does for the calendar.
something should come, it should come up for a vote in May. I don't know what the agenda for the first May meeting is, but I know we haven't spent a lot of time on section one, because I knew that's where we were gonna get into the nitty gritty of the details, because we said, oh, we can talk about that in section one. So now it's time to talk about it. When we talk about it,
Well,
certainly we're gonna talk about the first meeting.
Yeah.
Whether we actually act that meeting, it depends how that discussion goes.
Okay. Well, I guess what I would offer is that we obviously have submitted the final section one plans, complete application. It's been referred. We're working on these comments in preliminary for the utilities and MRB, et cetera, that also are obviously updating the final section one plans at the same time. But the lighting details, the landscaping details, all of those things are comprised and complete within the final section one plan. So if the board needs hard copies so that we can help facilitate review of that as we come into the meeting and answer any questions that you have, I think it's very consistent with what the board has seen at preliminary and a little bit smaller package because it's only a piece of the project. We'd be happy to do so. Whether that's discussion at the meeting on the 22nd, because preliminaries teed up and ready to go, and we talk about details that the board has questions on, whatever we can do to help facilitate that, we'd appreciate it.
Have the section one plans been changed at all from what you submitted?
Those were submitted,
It's been a while now.
hey, Jake, if you're on there, can you answer that question possibly?
Yeah, I believe they were submitted 314, right in the middle there.
318, right before the 325 meeting.
Yeah, yep. So I mean, I would think if we could upload the freshest set, it's going to be pretty similar to what we've seen in the preliminary overall, but it's just like Matt said, in a smaller size.
Then I asked the board members, do you want full size, half size, reduced size copies, or can you? I think among you folks, you seemed okay with the computer. I think it was Bob.
I was gonna say,
Bob
Bob
was
probably
the one.
appreciates that.
Okay.
And
And
you
you
had
want-
given me a half
11 by
size.
17 or half size.
Yeah,
We can do that again.
okay. I do have a reduced size set, but I'm not sure it's the latest. Okay. So I
Of the-
appreciate your
of the
offering that.
Section 1 plans, yep, that's no problem.
And then
Okay.
would you want us to upload, when we print that set, just upload another latest and greatest set as well to Cloud Permit for that, just so everyone has the same exact printout?
Yeah, we'll do that, Jake. Yep, for
Okay.
sure. And again, that just has the minor valve modifications, things that we've done to address utility comments as.
For section one, we're
For
talking.
section 1. Yep, anything that affected preliminary overall changes to utilities or anything comments is
For
being
your
updated
final,
on
they're more or
section
less
1 at the
taking the
same
preliminaries
time.
and just cutting out sections.
There's a few less pages in each section.
Are there any waivers that we're granting with this preliminary overall?
We did submit for several with the last submission package.
Okay. I don't know how much they've been discussed. And if we're granting them, I guess they should be in the resolution.
I think they were relatively minor. A couple of them related to, yeah, this is gonna test my memory if we can't find it to pull it up, because I don't have that with me unfortunately, but I can
I'll be
definitely.
impressed if you find it.
There's a lot of stuff on Cloud Permit right now.
Yes.
I know that we submitted asking for waiver of showing the side and rear setbacks on the subdivision plats. Because they're noted and the front setback, I believe, is shown and they're noted on the site plans for what the setback requirements are. Each plot plan that comes in for a building permit will have that information on it. Yeah, I'm gonna struggle. Good, you found it. That's great. The mid-block crossing comment, or there was a mid-block crossing that was tied kind of to the underlying zoning district, I believe, because the single-family homes for the block length, and this is specific to, give me a second, I'll tell you which street. Specific to Sackett Street, which is a longer loop here around, does not have a mid-block crossing. But our request for the waiver really is based on that, the access points or direction of walking, if you will. There's no destination, if you will, through the mid-family that's shorter route necessarily by cutting through, and maintenance of that without an HOA or any other type of mechanism for a mid-block crossing really didn't seem to make sense. I think that it's more predicated to the mixed use orient to the retail, not make folks walk around. So that is one of the requests. And there was one other waiver form, I believe. There was a question as it related to another roadway connection to the property to the east versus just the road stubs to the north. And that was obviously something we discussed with this board, discussed with Jim. Nobody had the desire to show that, but because it is in the code. I think MRB pointed that out as something.
Yeah, I think the
potential
waivers
waiver.
were required from it, just that the planning board had to determine whether it was appropriate or whatever, something to that effect. It wasn't like they required so many connections or connections, just the planning board had to make the determination about whether the connections were appropriate or something to that effect. So we put it in our letter just to make you
So
all
correct.
aware of that.
It's just to record that we discussed it.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't exactly sure how that was gonna be handled. And then building mounted lighting, we were just asking for a waiver for that to be deferred to final versus preliminary, just because we had not had an opportunity to really go through that yet. That is on the final plans that we've submitted to you folks.
And I assume any other conflictions with the code are being picked up in the IZ amendment, right? Okay. So everything is copacetic in this case. Alrighty. So, anything else you want to discuss tonight? I know Bob had a couple comments. That certainly we can bring up when he's here. Nothing major. Mark had a couple comments, so I would like to have them, here to
Sure.
say it themselves.
And I think if there is an opportunity as they review the plans to provide them either at the 22nd or in an email in advance, we can be prepared to answer them, or if a graphic is helpful, we can prepare that kind of thing, so.
Okay, and then scheduling, I think we discuss it on the May meeting, first meeting, and if all goes well, it could be approval or go to.
Yeah, and
I think Major is your
that's
window,
when we're
right? Okay.
hoping to, because easements, filing the subdivision plats, being able to break ground is gonna take a little bit of time as well after that final approval is received. So that's really what we're trying to keep as much of the summer construction season available as possible.
Whatever comes.
Snow today wasn't promising. that's for sure.
Alrighty, so tonight, the board, we're doing a continuation. Again. And one of the things when your draft, I think the latest plan was March 18th. It was the last revised plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're saying it's not.
Yeah, March 4th. So again, so give me a continuation resolution on the to the 22nd. So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
With, how many conditions do we need to?
zero.
No conditions
Zero,
are
they-
the,
That's the continuation, right, okay.
You gotta wear flip flops, they gotta wear shorts. All right, got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, see you in 2 weeks.
Great, see you then, thank you.
All right, and the next item is 2025-015. We discussed that. So that will be on our May. We got the date, we got it here. May 13th. So that'll be on our May 13th agenda.
I will be back.
Okay. Well, you won't be here to vote on the.
I'm all for it.
Okay, so that'll be just for the record, it'll be on the 8th. Approval minutes.
Another bouquet.
Somebody want to give me a motion for the last meeting in March?
So moved, if no additional updates.
Second.
Okay, no changes, corrections, additions beyond what Karina sent out? If so, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. No letters of credit, no referrals, no recommendations from the ZBA this time. So the next meeting is on the 22nd. So we'll have Uptown, we'll have site plan approval. Schneider's, where's that? What? Is that the one on County Route 4? Which one are you looking at? I'm looking at the 22nd. Agenda. CPN 24-139.
That's the one on Middle Cheshire Road, I believe, the one that had been continued for a while.
Should I?
Yeah.
That one?
I think we pushed them to then. Are they ready to go? I think we just, Chris said you have to put a date in the continuation. We just picked that date.
Yeah, they said that they had revised plans on April 4th.
And this one on the State Route 21, was that the one, Kim, you had sent out that apparently needs a variance? Because it's deeper than it is wide, and so that will get pushed to May. So that won't be in the agenda next 2 weeks. And Uptown Landing.
That one on 21, that one will be on the May ZBA agenda, so we wouldn't see it here until June, is that?
It'll be on the, yeah, it'll be on the May ZBA. Which means June 10th. Where's that house on County Route 4, the one that had the
You're increasing a non-conformity.
right, and we
So they're coming, they have to go really,
CBA this month?
they have to go to you guys to get the comment on whether or not, you know, you have a comment on the increasing non-conformity, then they have to go to the zoning board to hopefully get approval and then come back to you, so
We did do the
did you?
comment, yeah,
Then
the last
then
meeting.
that probably.
We didn't have an
next
issue, so
thing is
now it's
they're waiting
CBA,
for the zoning
and it's gonna
board,
come back for us.
and then it'll
So,
come back.
okay. Okay, and we've got the cell towers, the 27th. All righty, anybody have any other questions? Concerns?
Cell towers, next week?
No, not till
Oh,
May.
May.
Remember they said they gotta do the full engineering
Oh,
drawings,
yes.
and they're gonna do it with the alternate 3. Okay,
Yeah, what- oh, Chris is.
anybody else
No.
here, there?
whether or not-
Mike, thanks for sitting in.
You're gonna have to recirculate that,
To the other agency.
because we never had location 3.
Yeah,
I don't want to leave the low hanging fruit if we. Not gonna make somebody happy.
Recirculate it to who? Everybody or?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the
that
question
one
I
was
guess for
going to
Chris.
the county, right?
Just, there was something that came up in the case law thing over
I was just
the
thinking
past
that too.
couple
I
of
was trying to
days,
think
so-
where it was at.
the, so I'm just, if you can open that question up with Chris, whether we need to recirculate with the other
Amended.
agencies because the location 3 was not on the original.
We covered that.
Was that question about the tower? Or was it about a different application?
It was about the tower, special use. I
Yeah.
asked Chris,
Yes, we did ask that.
If it had to go back to the county?
if we had to.
Re-notice it, redo the
Oh,
notice.
Oh, re-advertise. No, I was worried about circulation with the other agencies, involved agencies.
I didn't cover that. I covered.
Did you have to re-advertise? Oh,
No.
sorry. Okay, good.
He said I did not.
Because it's still open, right?
It's a continued hearing.
Said I didn't give it to you.
I know the one you're thinking about.
Yeah, just
There's something
if
that-
we can check,
Part of
double
the,
check.
the town's malfeasance was it didn't send it back to the county planning board for review or something,
Yeah.
some application. Guess it depended whether it was a substantial change or minor change. Okay, I'm all done.
Motion to adjourn till April 22nd.
Sure. Take a second. You 21.
It must be the chair.
All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everyone.